Hola, ¿cómo están? Today we're going to talk about the verb estar and compare it a little bit with the verb ser, which you've already used. They both have the same translation in English. So we're going to talk about when you might use one and when you might use the other if you're going to be speaking in Spanish and you're not sure which to use. So first, let's just show you the verb estar, and what I'm going to do is conjugate it and kind of let you see it, and then we'll work with it a little bit. Okay. So estar means to be. And remember, that's when we conjugate it. It's I am, you are, he is, she is, we are, you guys are, they are. Okay, that's the verb that we're working with. The forms of estar are estoy, estás, está, está, estamos, estáis, están, están. And remember, I use the 4 boxes because I want you to remember that usted does not translate to he or she. That happens so often with some of my students. So I like to keep it separate. That's why we're going to repeat está, está, and están, están, just to remind you that the you and you guys is separate from he, she, or they. All right. Practice that well until you get it down and memorized. There are accents on several of them. So remember, all except for the top line right here have accents. Okay. So when do we use them? So first of all, the most important thing to remember is no rule works every time. I can't give you a hard and fast rule, always do this, because the spoken language came first, and we're trying to make rules that help us speak the language, but it doesn't always translate perfectly, or we can't always get an exact rule that matches every situation. So I'm going to give you some generalities, and then you'll learn the different times where those generalities won't work. So first of all, when we're talking about ser, you've already used it a little bit when you were learning to describe people or describe classes. So ser is used for characteristics like tall, short, difficult, easy, fun. Those are characteristics of something. Descriptions, okay? Profession or what someone does for a living, that's ser. Origin, like where were you from? Where are you from? We didn't remember. ¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde es usted? That's your origin, your place of birth, okay? Time and dates. So anytime we say es la una, son las dos, that's the verb ser. And calendars, es miércoles, es el 2 de febrero. And these things tend to be, whoa, wrong side. These things tend to be permanent. So people are like, well, time's not permanent. No, but this moment in time that I'm recording this, it's actually 1:20, will always be 1:20 on the 7th of July. So this is a permanent moment because that's the time it is right now. But again, I know some people are like, well, that doesn't help me. So if this permanent stuff doesn't help you, don't use that to remember it. Same with professions. Professions change, but typically you stay in your profession for a long time. It's not something you switch daily or momentarily, okay? Characteristics, hamburgers are delicious. You might change and think they're not delicious, I know. So yeah, you can always find an exception. You'll always find an exception for the permanent thing, but for some students that just helps them when they're in which one should I use? More permanent, use ser, okay? With estar, I kind of do what matches with location, emotion, condition, okay? So where something is located, always use estar. It's to the right of, to the left of, it's on the corner of, I'm in the library, estoy en la biblioteca, we're going to use estar. Emotion, how are you feeling, okay? If I point to the wrong side again, sorry guys. Emotion, how you're feeling. Condition, this one can get tricky, but let's say you wanted to say your soup is cold when it's supposed to be hot. You want to talk to the waiter. Está fría, okay? La sopa está fría. That's the condition right now. It might have been hot earlier, but this moment, it's cold. That's probably the hardest one because if you want to say in general that soup is hot, that's ser. That's a characteristic of soup. La sopa es caliente. That's your permanent characteristic. But this particular one's condition is that it is no longer hot. It has turned cold at the moment. So that's why we use condition for estar. So estar tends to be temporary, but again, location. A building might have been there for hundreds of years, so it's not always a hard and fast rule. But if this helps, great. If not, memorize all the bullet points, and you'll be on a good track to kind of know when to use which one. Right now, we're just going to talk about how people are feeling and conditions with ESTAR. And then as we go through the next year, we'll really fine tune all this information so you feel comfortable which one to use. But I wanted to give you an overview so you understand why am I using this, why am I using that one. It just gives you a little idea. All right, hasta luego.